Wow, I just got done listening to Justin Trudeau's press conference. Boy, I'm not shocked by what he's doing. It's quite interesting. It was leaked that he was going to invoke the Emergencies Act today, which is the successor to the old War Measures Act. So a lot of people were anticipating, like, oh my gosh, Trudeau, he's going to send in the tanks. And I've used that phrase quite a bit myself. He's going to declare martial law, essentially. He's going to send the military in to, break up the protests and start, maybe killing people. As of right now, that's not what he plans on doing. In fact, he's planning on doing something far more sinister and very much in line with, the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, and just the West in general right now. Something that I've talked about quite a bit on this channel is, actually, I haven't talked about it nearly as much as I should have, but I have talked about it in the past. The need for there to be, parallel banking institutions, because the monetary system is the choke point that the states in the West, particularly the United States, has over the people. Even if we create, our own social media spaces, if we create our own grocery stores, we create our own whatever, our own media companies, our own movie companies, film studios. All of that can be taken away as long as the enemy controls the monetary system, controls the banking system, and controls commerce. And we're seeing that today in Canada. Canada is the first country in the West, although I knew it was coming in the West. This has been building for a long time. It's happened a little bit here in the U.S., but on a minuscule scale compared to what's about to happen in Canada. They are locking people out of the banking system. They're locking them out of the financial sector. They are authorizing the private banks, which Canada has, I believe, 5 banks. It's incredibly concentrated, even far more concentrated than the U.S. Normally we think about, the big banks in the U.S. Well, in Canada, the banks are, on a relative basis, a lot bigger, and there's literally like 5. It's in the single digits. And so Trudeau's government is coordinating with the big banks, with the banks, to freeze anyone's account who is suspected of assisting or being involved with the protest movement. And so that's it. I mean, these people, if you lose your bank account, unless you're a gold bug who keeps a bunch of gold coins under your bed hidden in a sock or in your sock drawer, you're screwed if that happens. He just took away the ability for anybody to oppose his government. His political enemies, the real political enemies. I don't mean people like Doug Ford, who obviously are, is not real opposition. He's on the same side as Trudeau as far as this is concerned. Doug Ford's problems with Trudeau, are limited to like marginal tax rates. But I'm talking about the real opposition, which has been making its voice heard for only the last 2 weeks. Like up until that point, I, as an American, had no idea that there was any real opposition sentiment in Canada. I just wrote it off as a lost cause. Sure, there are a few good people like Viva or Maxime Bernier, but, they get like 0.2% of the vote. But then all of a sudden, the fringe minority showed up in Ottawa, and they've been, making their voice heard across the country. They've been showing up all over, and they've been, greeted with glee by people all across Canada. There have been millions and millions and millions of dollars in donations sent to these people, first through Gofundme until Gofundme shut it down, then through DuckDuckGo, or not DuckDuckGo, GiveSendGo, until the Canadian government reportedly was going to seize that money. It was unclear if they actually could. GiveSendGo, I guess, was saying that they were going to give the money out to people anyway, and that they didn't care what the Canadian government did. Then all of a sudden there was a cyber attack which shut down GiveSendGo, and all of the donors were doxxed. How convenient, because now all of those people can have their bank accounts frozen by the Trudeau government under this emergency order. Another good example is anybody, I guess, who was bringing those gas cans or diesel cans, or jerry cans as they're called up there, into downtown Ottawa, giving people fuel. That, I think, would be considered, aiding these people, and maybe even just, waving a flag downtown. Showing tacit support for the protest movement. That might be enough to get your money taken away. And of course, once you're locked out, even if you did have some cash on hand or whatever, you wouldn't be able to open a new bank account. Yes, all your savings in that old bank would be gone, and no other bank would do business with you. You would be done as a citizen. I mean, you can't work that way. What are you going to do? I guess every week take your paycheck to Amscot, and they take what, like a 20% cut off of it? Trudeau is about to unperson his political opponents, and I mean, it's quite remarkable. It's pretty smart. This is an experiment. Make no mistake. And Trudeau made this pretty clear during his press conference. Other countries are watching. They're looking at us and they're saying, "Hey, Canada, you're not looking so good. We're not so sure that we can trust Canada anymore. You guys, you're not being good team players. You got to crush these people. We can't have people like this because." And they were saying, "Hey, this is going to show up in other countries around the world, and we can't have that. It's a threat to global democracy." And that's why we, the Canadian government, must take a stand here, and we must crush this movement and open up our economy. As ironic as it is to hear that sort of rhetoric out of Trudeau. So what this is an experiment in is, can you maintain authoritarian rule without employing the same, unsavory and tactics that, say, the Soviet Union and Red China had in the 20th century in order to crush opposition movements, i.e. sending in the tanks? Can you maintain authoritarian rule without that, simply by controlling their financial situation, by controlling people through the banking system? That's what this experiment is all about. And make no mistake, if Trudeau is successful, you will see this rolled out across the West on a more regular basis. You will see other people employing this because, it's a very easy thing to do. That's why they want to have a digital dollar, a digital euro, central bank digital currencies in general. It's so that, because the last bastion of that these people have is that, okay, let's say they get locked out of the banking system, at least they can still then deal in cash. Get rid of cash, then even that's gone. And then it's very easy. All of your cash or whatever, all your money is stored, in an app on your phone, in the cloud. And all they can do is lock you out of your app, and then you lose all your money, and you're done. And that's exactly, we're not quite at that stage of it yet, but we're, 95% of the way there, because most people, just use their bank account entirely anyway. The dollar, whether it be Canadian dollar, US dollar, the euro, the pound, whatever, it's 95% of the currency is digital anyway, and probably 95% is understating it. And so, locking these people out of their accounts, they're not going to be able to interact in society anymore. They'll be done. Trudeau is making it clear, if you support these people, let alone participate and join them, you will be ruined, and there's no coming back. If you're a trucker, Doug Ford already announced in Ontario, if you're a trucker participating in this, you're going to lose your license for life, and you're going to lose your truck, and you're going to lose everything. You'll have to go and find another career. Trudeau has expanded that to every province in Canada. The truckers participating in this will lose their license for life. Their bank accounts will be frozen, and for whether they are an owner-operator or a company or whatever, the accounts, whatever bank account is associated with the operations of that truck, will be frozen. They made that clear. And so I think it goes without saying, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. Viva Frei already said it on Twitter a few minutes ago. This is far worse than sending in the tanks. This is much more damaging to people than sending in the tanks. You can run from a tank, You can't run from a big bank. But there seems to be a very strong group of people who are willing to go down with the ship on this one, who are saying, no, we're not going to give in. We're going to remain here as long as it takes. And so these folks will be rendered destitute. They're going to lose everything. They're going to lose their homes. They're going to lose their vehicles. They're going to lose their livelihoods. They're going to lose whatever savings they might have. They're going to lose their children. That's the next step. He didn't address that today. They didn't say, oh, we're going to go in and take away their kids. But obviously, if these people are left without a livelihood, if all of their existing savings are seized, if they're potentially prosecuted and thrown in prison, those kids are going to end up in foster care. I don't know. Maybe family members can take over, taking care of them. But what if you don't have them? And they take away all your money, and you can't afford to provide for your child. The state's going to take your kid away. And so that'll be something that probably will come later. It won't come immediately because, it has to set in that for these folks that, you have nothing now. And if you have nothing, you can't take care of a child. So, it's interesting. If you'd asked me, where was the... where would the final stages of Western authoritarianism, the new Western authoritarianism, the modern corporatist or fascist system that has been cultivated by the World Economic Forum and its their cronies? I would have guessed that it would start in a place like Germany or France, somewhere in the old world. I would have not expected Canada. But, to his credit, Paul Gottfried, very wise old man, he put Canada about even with Germany as far as being an irredeemable nation. And this was before this stuff happened, before the trucker movement and all that. Quite a few months ago, I heard him, make the point that, the people who are the most helpless, who are hopeless, I should say, who will not, who will just sort of walk right into all this stuff. It's going to be Germany and Canada neck and neck. And when he made that comment, he was talking about people obviously not like the truckers. He was talking about people like Trudeau. And so we'll see. This is kind of this is what Hillary called soft power, coming home to the people of the West. Because Hillary drew the distinction between soft power and hard power, and she wasn't the first, obviously. It's a term that is popular within the Western foreign policy establishment. The idea is that with soft power, financial power, sanctions, whatnot, you can achieve the goals that would have traditionally been achieved through what they call hard power, which is war, a hot war. Bombing campaigns, invasions. And so we're seeing soft power now be brought home to deal with domestic uprisings. Traditionally, if you look to a place like Hungary in 1956, or the Prague Spring in 1968, I believe it was 68, what did the Soviets choose to do? How did they resolve those uprisings? How did they quell them? Was it through negotiations? Was it through trying to hear people out and give in some and appease them and get them to come down from the ledge? No, they sent in the tanks. They killed people. They blew stuff up. They conducted mass executions. People went into exile. That's how they dealt with those situations. That was hard power. But Trudeau, he's going to use what they call soft power. Make no mistake. It's an act of war against his own people. It's just an act of modern war. It's not conventional wars like were fought in the 20th century. This is the new war. It's a financial war. It's a kind of war that's waged on dissident nations like Iran and North Korea, countries who step out of line with Western orthodoxy and piss off the Western elite. They are subject to this kind of treatment on a national scale. example is like, well, Venezuela is another one. Kicked out of SWIFT, unable to deal in U.S. dollars, on the global market. Cut out of the banking system. That's what we're talking about. And when that happens, you end up very poor because you lose access to global markets. In this case, in Canada, they'll lose access to any market, other than, I guess, black markets, which is, that's how Iran has survived, through black market oil transactions. And so people in Canada will have to learn to do the same once you've been excluded. Now, who knows? Maybe if all these people, once they're driven into abject poverty, maybe they'll recant, and maybe at that point, there'll be some kind of jubilee, and Trudeau will relent, and he'll release their funds, and he'll let them start rebuilding their lives. If they apologize and swear an oath of loyalty to the state, I don't know. That's something that we determine down the line. But as of right now, there's no path to reconciliation that he outlined. There's no path to rehabilitation. They have not outlined any sort of process of reconstruction. Reconstruction, just like in the case of the American Civil War, will be imposed on these people once they have been thoroughly defeated. And Reconstruction itself will be a form of punishment. It will be a process which semi-permanently subjects these people to status as underclass. Trudeau essentially is waging a modern civil war. That's what he's doing by using soft power against his own citizens. It's an act of war in any other context when you're talking about different countries, doing this to different countries. But when you do it to your own people, of course, that's a civil war. So if you want to understand what's going to happen to these people, and what their status in society will be, look to what happened to Southerners after 1865. Look at what happened to French Republicans, Spanish Republicans after, when was the end of their war? It ended about 38. It was before World War II, I believe. Yeah, it was definitely before World War II, because Franco was allied with the Axis. I can't remember the exact year now that the Spanish Civil War ended, but Spanish Republicans did not lead great lives after the war, if they were allowed to live at all. Of course, that was in an era in which, you had a lot more hard power being exercised. And so I don't want to compare the tactics so much as the end state. The end result in all of these civil conflicts is that one group of people ends up occupying the lowest rung of society, and they're all pushed there. They are corralled down there. They're pushed into that status as an underclass. It's a matter of official state policy in all three of these examples. Now, the mistake that he's making here is that he's taking away his own stick with which to beat these people. Once you've seized their assets, once you've ruined them completely, they have nothing left to lose. And that's when they'll become very dangerous. Because at that point, they don't care. They'll have, that will release most of their inhibitions, at least if they're a normal human being. What keeps people civilized to a large degree is, all the advantages of civilization. Sure, you can go out in the woods and be a savage if you want, but you're not going to have a lot of resources. You're not going to have any luxuries in life. You'll be lucky just to scrape by eating, twigs and berries and maybe, the occasional rabbit. But by being civilized, by being calm, by being nonviolent, you're able to, come into society, you're able to cooperate with other humans, and you're able to, produce a lot of goods and in turn consume a lot of goods yourself. But if Trudeau takes that away from these people, they're going to be cornered animals. It's as simple as that. He's going to take away most of the incentive for them to remain civilized, which these people have been incredibly civilized this entire time. Trudeau, in treating these people like they are, true insurrectionists, using the same law that his father invoked to deal with, literal terrorists who were taking politicians hostage and demanding, political. They wanted their political goals to be given to be met in exchange for releasing their hostages. That's the same law that Justin Trudeau is now using to deal with these people. And so it may become a self-fulfilling prophecy in that he could back these people into a corner, at least some of them, and they may strike it. And if that happens, of course, then he'll just be able to point and say, see, I told you so. It's a good thing I'm taking away all their money and all their resources and anyone who supports them, because these are, dangerous antisocial beasts. Oh, the other really remarkable thing that came out of this is that, he gave an example of, some of the new powers, the emergency powers that the police will have. He brought up, a couple of times how one of the problems with clearing the truckers out from these blockades, which I don't like the idea of calling, the situation in Ottawa a blockade. It's not a blockade at all. But setting that aside, part of the trouble that the government has had in clearing these people out is that if they clear out all the people, what do they do with the trucks? Oh, well, you'd hire tow trucks to come in and do it. Well, the tow truck companies don't want to do it. They want no part in this. They don't want to help the government clear these people out. Because, to a large extent, you talk to tow truck drivers and over-the-road truckers, they're kind of the same people. And so Trudeau now is giving the local police the ability to compel tow truck drivers and tow truck companies to tow these people. I don't know how you force them. What do? Put a gun to their head, literally? I wouldn't be surprised at this point. So yeah, Canada, welcome to the police state. That's what you're living under now. And Trudeau did not set any timeline for getting rid of this. I mean, he said once, I want to stress these measures are to be temporary. Nobody wants these measures to be brought up or whatever. They're not going to be temporary. Remember, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Now it's 2 weeks to flatten the dissidents, and that will turn into years. This is just going to be what Canada is like from now on. And if it goes well for Trudeau, if he's able to save his skin and he comes out of this still in power, you're going to see these tactics employed across the Western world. You will lose your bank account. You will lose all your money because, let's see. I mean, there could be any number of reasons. Just if you step out of line with the blob, if you, tweet something unflattering about Nancy Pelosi, if you say that Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, if you say she looks like a horse, they might seize your bank account. If you say the N-word, even with an A, even if it's the soft A and not the hard R, they very well might seize your bank account. So that's where we're at for today. I will see you folks back here tomorrow, and let's see how this goes.